So for my AI tool, I've chose to look at Magic School, but specifically look at the student rooms that are available to set up within the Magic School platform. The audience for this will be high school students, and the subject can be for any STEM course because we're going to look at it specifically. How could we use these student rooms to support students when they're completing a project that we have at our school called a citizen chat project. Our school has a very robust STEM program, and we have science courses, math, ELA, history, Spanish, and several CTE courses that are identified as STEM. And so within any of those courses, students would be completing possibly be completing what we call a citizen chat project. And so the citizen chat project is a project-based learning experience where students investigate a real-world issue and they basically do a research project about that. It's rolled out in 5 phases. The first is just the introduction, like what is the citizen chat, the overall premise of it. The second thing that the students will be doing is they will be brainstorming ideas, like topics they would like to research, and they pick one of those topics. Then they have to create a problem statement that talks about what their issue is, why it's important, who does that issue affect, and then what is their overall objective with their research. And so then the fourth step is students have to collect their own data, and then also analyze that data to see how does that work in terms, like what things did they find out in terms of their problem statement, and then they have to present their findings. And this really helps students develop data science and research skills, which sometimes they don't get in a lot of those classes, like in a ELA or in a Spanish class that might not show up, or even in a math class. So the tool description. So Magic School overall is an AI platform that's built specifically for teachers and students. It supports them with their planning, instruction, and student work. Differentiation is a big thing that it helps teachers with as well. And it's designed with specific education safe guardrails. So it's not pulling from every parts of the internet like other large language models like ChatGPT. It's a little bit more reined in so that it can be more focused on the education. Some key features is, again, it has a lot of teacher tools. Over 80 teacher tools are available, and they do things like helps teachers with planning, helping them provide feedback to their students, helping differentiate assignments and provide scaffolds for their students. The student rooms that we are going to look at today, they are teacher controlled spaces, and they really are super guided for students. So it's a great kind of introduction to how to appropriately and effectively use AI for students. And if you're able to align those rooms with customizable prompts, and you can align them to specific tasks like the citizen chat project, or even your specific standards for your course. Some possible outputs, again, there's a ton of tools that are available within that platform, but there's a lot of idea generation and brainstorming, feedback and guided questions, and then help just creating project outlines and structured responses. So here is our demo. For my AI tool, I've chosen to work with Magic School. Magic School is an AI platform that is built specifically for students and teachers, so it has a lot more safeguards, guardrails in place, so it's not searching the entire internet like platforms like ChatGPT or Gemini. It's more only focused on educational things. For this lesson, we're specifically going to look at our student rooms. So Magic School has a lot of teacher tools that can help teachers do things like planning, provide feedback or differentiation to their students, but they also have a Magic student section that has student tools. And so there's a lot of different student tools that are available that students can work with. And what we are going to look at is how we can select specific tools and create a student room. so students can go into the room and only use the tools that we provide. So for this lesson, we're looking at a citizen chat project. So it's a project-based kind of like research project that students will complete. And so what I've done is I've set up a room, and I've set that up. This is the teacher view, so you can see what students are in your room. Okay, you can see things like what their last message was, what tool they used, are they active. You can even go in if someone's not using the tool correctly on the teacher end, and you can pause that. You can lock them out of it. And then you can even remove that student from the room if you need to, okay? It also provides a lot of insights for the teachers, and it just gives them like a good general, like, are students using the tools? What tools are they using? So that way they know in the future, if a student's not using a specific tool, they can cut it out. They don't have to use that anymore. So here, these are the tools that I have added for this specific citizen chat room. So some things that is great about this is that teachers can go in, and you can see on the left hand side here, they can customize what they want this tool to do for their students. So the very first thing students have to do with the citizen chat process is they have to generate ideas. They have to figure out on their own what do they want to research, and sometimes that's very overwhelming for the students because there's just so many choices. So this tool I've put in, I want this tool to help the students generate ideas, but also narrow down their ideas, because a lot of times they know they want to talk about something like social media, but it's too broad. So I also wanted this tool to help them narrow down their ideas for the citizen chat. And so I was able to give it very specific instructions. I was also able to upload the paper that I would actually give the students talking about the citizen chats. And I was able to give it even directions by saying, this is the first question I want you to ask the students. I want you to ask them what are they interested in before suggesting any ideas. And I want you to help them narrow down their ideas into specific manageable topics, so that they can realistically collect this data within like a 2-month time frame. And so then I've also added some other tools, but if we go back, I'll show you what it looks like from a student preview. Okay, so if I'm acting as a student here, I see all the tools. It gives them a brief description of what each tool is. So again, if I go here to the idea generator, because that's where students would start, it's going to say, like, I'd like to understand, what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? Then I can help you narrow it down. So if I say something like social media's effect on teenagers' sleeping habits, they can also upload attached things as well. But if I give it that idea, it's going to generate some possible citizen chat ideas for them. Okay, and again, it doesn't give them like very specific answers, but it does kind of help and give them some options. So then they could even continue and be like, well, what about blue light and sleep disruption experiment? And if they type that in, it will give them some tips for getting started. Okay. So something that they also have to do in this citizen chat is they have to collect their own data. So it can also tell them, hey, this is the type of data collection method that you could use, and this is how you should do that, and kind of help them start that process, because that is difficult. This probably isn't something that 10th graders, high school students have had to do a ton. So then when they're done with that, they can go back to their magic tools. And then if they needed help writing their problem statement, they can get feedback on that. or if they needed more help with the data collection method or analyzing their data, they could get help with that. And again, on this end, you see everything that is said, and you can even pause the entire room or lock the entire room. When you want to invite students, you can give them a QR code that they could scan with iPads. If you have Google Classroom, it can go straight into Google Classroom, or you can just do this link and they could automatically join that way, and that room will be open as long as the teacher allows it to be open. Okay. So how can this tool be used in teaching and learning? So I just focused on the 3 different parts of the citizen chat process. So obviously at the beginning, like we saw in the video, the brainstorming, the teachers there, it will be more successful if the teachers really set up that student room with those guiding prompts. That's going to be what's super beneficial for students and help them the most. Students will be using those tools again to help generate and also just kind of narrow down their citizen chat topics. And the AI role there is to suggest ideas, ask probing questions, and really just kind of get students started with the thinking process, not doing it for them, but just really jump starting that thinking process. Again, the second thing that students will have to do is create that problem statement. And so the teacher, before the students go in and start working on their problem statements, they are going to talk about what that means. They're going to provide structure, like what they want that to look like, and examples of problem statements. So students know what are they shooting for, right? Like what's their final problem statement? What should that look like? What all should it include? The students, they'll draft and revise their problem statements using the examples that the teacher gave, but also they can use the AI to help receive feedback on their problem statements and see maybe they're missing a component, okay? And that AI can help them really clarify the issue, the purpose, and the relevance of the topic, but also give them feedback on their problem statement. And then the third thing that they have to do with the citizen chat is that data collection and data analysis. And this is where students really probably haven't done a ton of this yet. They've maybe had to analyze data from a chart or a table, but they don't have a ton of experience collecting data. So before they start working with that AI tool, the teacher would explain the different methods of data collection with examples of each, and even say like when it's appropriate to use each type of method of data collection. Then the students, they have to collect their own data. They have to interpret the results and then draw conclusions using the data that they collected. So the AI here could help suggest data collection methods, also help identify patterns and support their analysis, because again, that's a very higher order level thinking task, so that could help provide some supports for those students, okay? So some benefits of the student rooms: it's structured collaboration. It's going to help keep students focused within that guided AI space. You're not just telling them to hop on ChatGPT or Gemini and ask it away. It has boundaries and it has structure built in to help keep them focused and on task. It is personalized support. Every group that uses this will have a different topic that they're researching. And so this can help provide that personalized support, and they can receive immediate feedback about their specific topic. It also supports diverse learners. So if you have students who struggle with executive functioning skills, this can really help them start generating ideas, but also keeping their ideas organized in a space. And then it just kind of helps with some efficiency in the classroom. Sometimes students can, hyperfixate on the brainstorming section, and they can get overwhelmed at that and then shut down. So using this student rooms could help speed up the brainstorming process, but also like drafting the research project and any revisions that may come. Some challenges and limitations that come not just with this AI tool, but with any AI tool, is of course AI may provide vague or incorrect answers, okay? And students will just take that as face value and believe what it says. They also may depend on AI instead of thinking independently and for themselves. They may just get frustrated and just say, well, what does AI have to say about that? The technical access issues, this does require device access and internet reliability. So if that's not something that students have access to outside of school or even within a school, if they don't have the devices needed, then that could be a limitation. And also there's a learning curve when it comes to students using AI effectively. They want it to just give them the answer, and they don't know how to do certain things like waterfall prompting or being very specific with their prompts. So there is a learning curve when it comes to, are the students using the AI effectively? Some critical issues and risks of, I think one of the biggest when it comes to education is academic integrity. What we don't want to happen is that students just present AI generated content or ideas as their own. Again, with that equity concerns, not all students have equal access outside of school to like devices or internet. So if that's something that does require students to work on this outside of school, not all students may have that option. Another big thing, especially when we're looking at research and students are collecting their own data and using these student rooms to help interpret their results, is data privacy. So we want to make sure that we avoid sharing any personal or sensitive information with AI. And then finally, AI bias, because even though it is structured for education, there is still, a possibility that AI may reflect, even in Magic School, it may reflect, biased perspectives based on what it's trained on. So some instructional tips to kind of help avoid those issues. First and foremost, I would say we would definitely want to make sure that we have students complete some AI literacy lessons. Magic School does provide some options for that. Common Sense Education is also another good resource that has a lot of AI literacy for students. Again, providing structured prompts, not only within the student rooms with the tools that the teacher sets up, but the teachers could also provide their students with structured prompts that are like fill in the blank. So that way that can kind of help teach them the appropriate way to prompt an AI. And then for this specific project, for the citizen chat, the teacher could require students to show their evidence, some evidence of their thinking. So obviously the teacher knows if they've set up these rooms that the student is using AI, but they can just have a section where the students have to explain how they used it, what they used it for. And then at the end could have the students, build in some reflection pieces so that the students, would have to answer some questions and maybe ask the students, what did the AI suggest, to you, and how did you change that, and why did you change that? Just so they know and kind of recognize that it shouldn't just be, we're going to blindly trust what any AI says. So why use this tool? Specifically, these student rooms, this enables real-time guided support for every student in the classroom. If you have a student of 30, or if you have a classroom of 30 students, it's hard for one teacher to be able to provide that support for every student exactly when they need it. So the student rooms can kind of help offset that workload a little bit. And this also helps prompt students to think deeper. Again, these are skills that students don't have a ton of practice with yet, especially early on in high school. So this can really help support those practices and really model how students should begin to think deeper as they progress through their courses. And again, kind of to piggyback with that, these student rooms that can really help scaffold complex tasks so students don't get overwhelmed and shut down early on before they kind of get their aha moment as they're doing their research. And this tool supports all phases of inquiry. So from the very beginning where we're brainstorming to the very end where they have to analyze their data and figure out what's important from what they have collected. And finally, the discussion question, it says, when using AI tools like Magic School student rooms, how do we ensure students are genuinely engaging in critical thinking rather than relying on AI to do the thinking for them?